It's all about the details. Appreciating the finer points of a thing is one of the great joys of collecting. Whether it's wine, fine art, cars, or watches, when you get to a certain level of knowledge, it's the details that light you up. That's what I love about this situation right here. To a normie, this is a watch pouch full of the same watch. But to a collector, this is a veritable vessel of variety. And the new hotness is this one. The Oris Diver 65 Maxi Topper Edition. Let's take a step back. In 2015, Oris launched the Diver 65. That's this watch right here. The Diver 65 was a modern recreation of an Oris dive watch from 1965. The brand made some updates with the new watch, including a bezel refinement, using modern materials like a sapphire crystal, and making the dial symmetrical by moving the date to 6 o'clock. The case size was also increased from 36 to 40 millimeters. Oris kept that funky signature numeral style and used a colored lume material to mimic the patina of a vintage watch. The Diver 65 was a hit. A year later, in 2016, Oris collaborated with Topper Jewelers to launch this Diver 65 Topper Edition. This edition was limited to just 100 pieces. The Topper Edition is very close to the standard Diver 65, but has some really tasteful changes. The 2016 Topper 65 does away with the date window. That's probably the most obvious alteration. But this edition's dial better resembles the dial text and layout from the original 1965 watch. The line under Oris is removed, and the phrase anti-shock is printed just above the movement's jewel count, rather than the water resistance rating from the standard 65. The Swiss-made text is also moved down to the bottom of the dial like it was on the original watch. This specific watch is number 1 of 100, which makes me think it probably belongs to Rob Kaplan, who is one of the owners of Topper Jewelers. And it's thanks to Topper and co-conspirator Zach Pena that I have these 3 watches right now. Nobody paid me to make this video or even asked me to promote anything, which is all the more reason to praise Topper Jewelers. The people at Topper really seem to care about watches and the watch community. I think that's why they helped produce this 2016 Topper Edition, and also why in October of 2020, they designed the latest iteration, the Diver 65 Maxi Topper Edition. As its name implies, the Maxi is big, or at least bigger. Instead of the 40 millimeters of the standard 65 and the first Topper Edition, the Maxi is 42 millimeters in diameter. It's not huge, but in some ways it looks larger than other watches of the same diameter. And that's the situation with all the Diver 65s. Because the rotating bezel is relatively narrow, the dial is large, and I think that illusion is furthered by the magnificently domed sapphire crystal. The Maxi is 42 millimeters in diameter, 50 millimeters long, 13 millimeters thick, and it has a lug width of 21 millimeters. The bracelet tapers down to 15 millimeters. The Maxi costs $2,450 and it's limited to 165 pieces. The standard 65 is 40 millimeters in diameter, 48 millimeters long, is also 13 millimeters thick, has a lug width of 20 millimeters, and the bracelet tapers down to 14 millimeters. Its price is $2,200. Both watches are water resistant to 100 meters and use the Sellita SW200 movement, though the movement in the Maxi has been modified to remove the date complication. Because the 42mm Maxi has the same thickness as the 40mm versions, it seems slimmer proportionally. The watch feels great on my 7 1/8 inch wrist. I expected the Maxi to be heavier than it is. It looks heavy, but it sure doesn't feel that way. I find this watch even more comfortable than some smaller watches I own. Like the 2016 Topper edition, the Maxi eschews the date window and uses the vintage-style dial text and layout. But what you probably already noticed is that the numeral loom is different. The standard Diver 65 uses tan faux patina that glows green, but the Maxi uses BGW9 Superluminova that looks white and glows blue. This is my favorite aspect of the Maxi. I think faux patina looks good on other watches, but I prefer the crispy, modern look of new loom. And that was kind of the whole idea of the Maxi. I'm actually going to let Rob Kaplan explain it.
I think that we're trying to make the best watch we can, but also taking it and imagining it being fresh in 65, which I think is a big difference than some of the totally linear reissues that you've seen other brands do. It's more about trying to capture the energy of somebody imagining today walking into a shop then.
I love the idea that this watch was designed to create an experience. The experience of seeing a new Oris diver that looks like this. The loom is new, the tech is modern to the time, yet it has all the design characteristics of a watch that's true to the mid-1960s, right down to the riveted bracelet. I preferred the design of the Maxi to the other Diver 65s. It's not really about the lack of the date or even the size, but it looks like a modern watch right down to the vivid orange accents. To me, that makes the Maxi more appropriate for my personal style and more versatile. But everyone's got their own thing, and Oris knows that, which is probably why there are currently around 50 variants of the Diver 65. I really appreciate that about the brand. And something else I appreciate about Oris is their dedication to good causes. I can't even keep up with their limited editions supporting environmental causes. And it means even more coming from a smaller independent brand. And inspired by that, Topper Jewelers partnered with Fremont Bank to do some good here. $200 from each Maxi sale will go to the Curie Odyssey, a local kid-friendly museum of science. That info may be in the fine print of this watch's details, but stuff like that makes a big difference to me. The Oris Diver 65 really isn't my thing. I respect it, I like it, but most vintage-inspired watches don't wind my mainspring, so to speak. I know I'm in the minority on that. I guess it's one of the reasons I like the Maxi the most out of these three 65s. It's the least vintage, it's the most modern, and I think it's the boldest. I love that Oris and Topper Jewelers are continuing to collaborate. They're two independent companies who listen to their customers, support the watch community, and try to do good in the world. And I think this Maxi exemplifies those missions. To me, the draw of this watch is as much about that story as it is about the physical object itself. But it doesn't hurt that the physical object is also pretty damn nice.